Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Medical Fitness Podcast. I'm David Flench, President and CEO of the Medical Fitness Association. And today I'm really excited because we have Ryan Glatt joining us as our guest. Ryan is the Senior Brain Health Coach and FitBrain Director at the Pacific Neuroscience Institute Foundation. And he's also the subject matter expert behind the new MFA Brain Health Program accreditation that will be rolling out really soon. Hey, Ryan, I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast.
Hey, David, thanks for having me. Great to see you as always.
Yeah, good to see you. So, for our listeners, Ryan spent years helping people optimize brain health through fitness and lifestyle. And today we're going to explore how medical fitness professionals can use these strategies to improve cognitive wellness for their clients and their communities. But before we get into all that, I wanted to kind of tell a story about you, Ryan, and me involving Dodger Stadium, ping pong, and a bunch of celebrities and athletes. You remember
Oh
that?
yeah, that was a fun time. That was our first meeting in a way.
Yeah, yeah. So just kind of tell people what happened here. Ryan and I had known each other kind of at a distance. He had spoken at some MFA conferences and whatnot, and I found myself out in the Los Angeles area doing a facility certification at another facility, and I had an extra day built into my trip, and so I'd never seen Ryan's workplace, and I think emailed or texted you, and so first I got to go see your
The FitBrain
workplace.
Studio, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and and one of your sessions in action was really cool. Um, and then you let me know about a little volunteer activity that you had at Dodger Stadium, right?
And by the way, that was only in relevance to brain health because if it wasn't for this nonprofit Ping Pong for Good, where we facilitate therapeutic ping pong or table tennis sessions for people with Parkinson's disease and other conditions, I would not know the table tennis instructor that provided this opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about all of this going on before I came out to LA. So, yeah, I said, of course, I'd love to go, volunteer. So we ended up getting these cool spin t-shirts from
Yeah,
this
that's Finn. That's
organization,
Susan
and
Sarandon's ping pong business. Yeah.
yeah, and so we ended up being judges or what
Well, I
officials.
was a ball picker upper.
But yeah, essentially
At,
counted points and picked up the ping pong balls in Dodger Stadium for Clayton Kershaw's foundation event that had all kinds of celebrities, athletes. One of my favorite celebrities that I saw there was Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad.
he's quite good at table tennis. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
he was very good.
tons of Dodgers athletes, and I think the final table in the tournament was Kershaw and Mookie Betts and Betts rather, and
Yeah.
who else was on? There was
I
there
can't
was
remember who was in the finals, but it was a fun time and it was cool to see how table tennis, which is a neuromotor activity that has brain health benefits, kind of led to something like that.
it
You
was
know,
it was.
I I think it's in the Kershaw Foundation, I think supports education and stuff like that. So it was a good cause.
Yeah, so I expect more of the same kind of things when I next time I come out to LA.
That's funny because that's not happening again for either of us, I think.
All right, well, I can
But
I
it
can
was a
see.
once in a lifetime situation.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks for being here. Maybe let's just start at the beginning, and you tell us, the audience here, a bit about your journey and how you got into brain health and what led you to become the Fit Brain director out there.
Sure, it's sort of a serpentine series of events. Kind of started as a kid. I was born in 1991, grew up on video games, never really was athletic, but I also had a concussion, kind of a severe brain injury as a kid when I was young, and it led to kind of a pretty lackluster upbringing. I didn't do well in school. I wasn't great with people. I wasn't great at sports. I became very overweight. And it wasn't until I got a at-home video game called Dance Dance Revolution. Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That I really started to lose weight, but not only lose weight, also started to improve my concussion symptoms, including my cognition. I was going from like a C student to an A or B student. I was becoming more social, and I lost as much weight as I did. It kind of got me into the gym. I started working out more, lifting weights. I started playing tennis, becoming more physically active. And so for a good chunk of my childhood, I was struggling with these concussion symptoms and this concussion induced ADHD that my parents didn't really know about, didn't really know what to do. And I didn't really learn about till later in my life when I reflected back. I'm like, oh, that wasn't normal. And so I also connected the dots that just playing this video game, which was both physical and cognitive, really changed my life. And I didn't even really perceive it as I was going through it. And of course, as we age, when children get brain injuries, the brains of children are much more plastic, so it's easier to recover from that. Um, so I think all those things in combination kind of led to this not only interest in fitness, but this realization that gaming and brain health are linked to fitness somehow. But I didn't make that connection till later on. And so I just kind of stayed interested in fitness. But before I got into kinesiology, I didn't even know that was a thing. I wanted to become an animal behaviorist. That got boring pretty quick as I watched a water buffalo chew cud for like 30 hours cumulatively. I'm like, this isn't that fun. So I kind of pivoted to kinesiology in my community college, Moore Park College. Shout out to Jeff Crowell, who I think runs the best community college-based kinesiology program in the country. And I was lucky to have him as my instructor for the classes in the program he's developed, which was basically a community college program where you take kinesiology classes, and by the end, you can test out for different certs like NSC or your ACE or group fitness through ACE. And so I did that, and I became obsessed with these classes. I loved fitness. I loved corrective exercise. And just around that time, my mom was going through some kidney disease that she had developed as a result of the gestational diabetes she had. And she had a leg amputation due to this kidney disease. And I was kind of going to her physical therapy appointments with her. And I saw that when she had her prosthesis, the physical therapist would help her try to weight transfer onto the prosthesis. And he was using this video game, Nintendo Wii's Sports, the tennis video game, to get her to weight transfer. And that's when I'm like, okay, he's using a game with my mom to get her to weight transfer to achieve a therapeutic goal. That's awesome. And the way I saw him work with her was so inspiring and touching to me. I wanted to then pursue physical therapy. So I became a pre-physical therapy bachelor student, got my bachelor's in exercise science while working as a personal trainer, went to live abroad in West Africa for kind of like a gap year and volunteered in a local hospital there and got some physical therapy experience. My grades still weren't that great. I'm not a great test taker, and I didn't do great on the GRE, so I applied for a physiotherapy program in Scotland. Went to Scotland. I don't know if it was a combination of my idiocy or a sign from a higher power, but I got put in an immigration detention center for 7 days for having the wrong visa subtype. I was the only American in there. That was weird. Came back to LA, became a body worker through something called anatomy trains, Tom Myers anatomy trains. It was like Rolfing, deep tissue body work type stuff. Did that for about 3 years and kind of burnt out and said, I really want to combine my love of fitness, health and behavior change, my love of brain health, and gaming together. And I didn't know how to do that. So I started working at a neurofeedback facility where they would hook things up to people's brain and use video games to try to train their brain waves. I started looking into the benefits of exercise. I started to go back and look at the effects of things like Dance Dance Revolution, Nintendo Wii. I learned about dual task training. And then I just started to get these different reaction lights and go to kids who have, autism or older adults with Parkinson's and try to work with them to try to get them to mentally move while thinking. To be honest, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just trying to get people to think while they move. And as I became more understanding of what that meant, that was called dual tasking, reactive agility, exergaming, depending on the context. I started to get more experience. And you know me, I'm kind of an incessant Googler. So I started to try to figure out how these things can make sense in a program, how to create an assessment, what tools do we use. And that kind of started me on 8-year trajectory that I'm kind of in the midst of now, of really just trying to learn how do we incorporate these types of cognitively enhanced interventions into a variety of fitness, rehab, and medical based programs. Uh, how do we do research in that area? And then in the context of brain health, whereas we do health and fitness professionals stand, and how can we make an impact in that area? So that's kind of my background and how I got to where I am.
Man, I'm going to tell you that that has to be one of the coolest origin stories. I mean, never before on this podcast, I would say that we've had somebody going from looking at, I think you said buffalo chewing crud to, detained in overseas, all back to, looking at how some of these, we and Dance Dance Revolution like
It's pretty
really
random.
formed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's awesome how it all just kind of came together for you, and now you're out there doing some really cool things.
Yeah, no, I'm enthused about it as well. And if you look at my history, like, wow, Ryan's either a very bad planner, which is not untrue, or a lot of weird things happen to him, and he's very lucky, which is probably true. So, but it sometimes people ask me like, "Oh, how did you find your passion?" I'm like, I don't know if I found it. I kind of stumbled into it. And I'm glad that I did. And I pretend I have everything figured out, but I don't. And I think the reality is, there's so much need out there. And so I was just going with where I think there is need, where I could help people. And I think I've just been going from finding the most motivating need and a potential solution that I might have within my evolving skill set to make those fit and see if we can help people, you know?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's so much need in the brain health space.
Mm-hmm.
When I was running facilities, whether it was some of our programs for Parkinson or just seniors who were struggling with some brain health issues. I mean, you even talk about the concussions that happen and affect people's brain health and things that people can
Absolutely.
do. So I think there's a need. There's just a lot of opportunity, and like I said before, you've given presentations at some of our conferences, and that kind of leads me into where I want to go next. You're giving a keynote at our upcoming conference in San Diego this November, with the presentation called "The Brain Health Opportunity for Medical Fitness." So
Indeed.
maybe go ahead and paint a picture for our listeners, and what does this opportunity look like, and why should medical fitness professionals care about it?
Yeah, I think it's a massive opportunity. And I probably can't even capture how big, broad, and immense this opportunity is. So I think the brain health opportunity refers to, kind of to paint a darker picture, but really it's an opportunity, is the rates of dementia are doubling. Just earlier this year, the article Nature showed that there's going to be a projected doubling of older adults with dementia diagnosed in just the United States alone by the year 2050 to about 1 million from about half that just 10 years ago. So that's pretty immense. To have a rate of dementia double is, and especially in your country, is quite scary. So this is on everyone's minds. A lot of people are thinking about dementia. How do I avoid it? Even people who are younger, especially those with a family history, it's becoming more trendy to talk about it, which I think is a good thing that there's more awareness, because I think a few years ago, no one really cared or thought about it. And if you're not an older adult, you're not really worried about this unless you have a personal or family history with it. And on top of that, you have Parkinson's disease, which one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing brain disease in the world. you have increasing rates of depression and anxiety, you have issues with sleep, you have cognitive problems, neurodivergence, ADHD. Those are some opportunities, mental health diagnoses. You kind of, strokes, you lump all this together. That's the brain health opportunity. And that's, probably discouraging, but also encouraging to hear, because it's discouraging that we have a problem, but it's encouraging to hear that we might be able to do something about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about it. And so that's what I think the brain health opportunity is. The reality is that we're going to go back to our day to day jobs after hearing this and continue to work with the same people that we work with. Maybe you might make a career change. Maybe you might launch a new program and attract a specific audience. Maybe you have a passion for helping a particular audience because of personal and professional interests, and you now want to work towards that within your existing job, or volunteering with the Special Olympics like I did, whatever it is. And I think when you look at the brain health opportunity, we have to think about, who are we already working with? And I remember speaking last year in New Orleans for MFA and asking the crowd this. And I asked, how many of you work with older adults? Everybody raised their hand. Everybody. How many of you work with people with Parkinson's? Everybody. How many of you know how many of the older adults that you work with, whether they have a cognitive impairment or not? Two people, right? So we already work with people who have a brain, right? We're just not often thinking about brain health. And even within the context of Parkinson's disease, aside from the word boxing, do we go even further? Do we talk about the other opportunities and interventions and challenges that they might face besides, just doing boxing? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love that that has expanse and impact and integration, but we got to go further, because every day these people wake up, and every day they might have a fear that they will get dementia or lose their cognitive independence. Or every day they're living with a cognitive impairment. And for them and people around them, it's challenging. It causes more stress, more burden. And so the question is, do we want to address that? For me, it's a yes. I mean, of course I want to address that. The second thing is, can we address that? The answer is also yes. And then the third thing is, then, okay, how do we address it? Especially from where we stand as who are subclinical or tangentially, off to the side health and fitness professionals. I actually think we are posed to address that problem better than most, because there's so much undiagnosed cognitive impairment out there. Most of the people that we're already working with probably have some kind of undiagnosed cognitive impairment and don't have it diagnosed, or it's too early for them or us to tell. Well, that's the time to start, to assess, to intervene. But the question is how. And that's what I think we'll be discussing in that keynote.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear that. You make some really interesting points about how, when you ask the fitness pros, how many are working with it, and they say, everyone's raising their hands, and then you talk about it in terms of brain health and and people don't connect all of that, and so I mean, part of this is just making the connection. I mean, you even brought up things like depression, anxiety, sleep, things that are absolutely everybody is dealing with this. I mean, sleep is one of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, pillars, essentially,
Absolutely.
getting good rest. And how does that, affect people's performance, even athletes and younger people, not just the older. So I mean, this goes really far, but dementia doubling in the next 25 years, oh my gosh, that's significant. So I mean,
It is.
yes, I that this is definitely a big need. I'm curious how you look at this in terms of fitting brain health into traditional programs. So, do you look at specific strategies? Do you look at specific exercise that are exercise professionals should really be thinking about when they're looking at really all of their clientele?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think when we're talking about exercise, I mean, when we're talking about what sort of things help with dementia prevention or improving a disease state or slowing neurodegeneration, improving mental health, exercise is it for sure. But we're being general, exercise in the larger proverbial sense. Now, once we get into specific condition, specific intervention, all the acute variables and the conclusion and outcome that might lead to, we can spend a lot of time on that depending on the diagnosis, depending on the specific population that we're dealing with. Um, Now, when it comes to exercise, exercise is medicine. We know that. But from a neuroscience standpoint, exercise has become a polypill. It's a metaphor. A polypill is something where, metaphorically speaking, it mimics multiple different potential medications. But exercise has also been called a neuro-polypill because it can mimic a lot of different medications from the neurological side. So it has fantastic benefits on cognitive abilities like memory, attention, reaction time. It has benefits on brain function. It has benefits on brain volume, brain blood flow. It affects the brain at the molecular level. Neurons grow, survive, do good things, stay connected. There's a release of brain derived neurotrophic factor, irisin, IGF-1, uh, all sorts of neurogenic sort of growth factors. It helps with hormones, the release of neuroendocrine elements, things like dopamine, acetylcholine, all this different stuff, right? Nothing can do that. Only exercise can do that. It's not the only thing you should be doing, obviously. There's other aspects of lifestyle, but I don't think we spend enough time realizing how important, how impactful exercise can be. With that said, not all exercise prescriptions have the same effect. There's some things that they all kind of do. There's some overlap. There's a little bit of a Venn diagram if we look at different types of exercise. But as we kind of dwindle down to different acute variables in different types, like resistance training versus aerobic versus neuromotor, which we'll define and talk about, there are different effects. However, in general, we've all heard that 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity per week for most adults, for most health benefits. That recent version of the physical activity guidelines for Americans, the second edition, now includes systematic reviews and meta-analyses on brain health in that. So if people are meeting that 150 minutes, that's probably the first step, I would say. The way we get there doesn't really matter. It could be by exercising more, by exercising with greater intensity, by doing more different types of exercise, by increasing our frequency, our duration. All of that is possible. That's the creativity and the behavior change aspect of it and the individualization. But the reality is a significant percentage of older adults, I think the last number I heard is 60 to 80% of older adults are not meeting that guideline. So one of the biggest dementia risk factors is sedentary behavior. So we just got to get people from sedentary to closer to that guideline. That's the first step. I think there's a lot of ways to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's something we could talk about forever, right? I mean, all the ways to design the program. That's your wheelhouse, and that's actually kind of leading to me to my next point of this conversation. You're the subject matter expert behind our new hasn't really even been talked about to the
I
masses
mean,
yet.
you might be fired just for bringing it up on this podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, it's that. So we have this brain health program accreditation in the works, and we've got one facility currently
Piloting,
piloting
yeah.
the accreditation and what they have to go through, so that we can get some feedback, so that we can roll it out. So, what I'm interested in, because you actually came to me to talk about it and see if we were interested in MFA, and definitely were. And I just think this is really cool for the industry. But I want to hear what maybe your vision for the program is, and why you think it's important for facilities, especially medical fitness centers, to adopt this.
The Medical Fitness Podcast is brought to you in part by the Medical Fitness Association. Want to hear more from Ryan Glatt on brain health? Don't miss Ryan's keynote address at the Medical Fitness Association's annual conference happening November 4th through the 7th in San Diego. It's your chance to connect, learn, and network with leaders across the medical fitness industry. For details and to register, visit medicalfitness.org. That's medicalfitness.org.
Yeah, it's a strong mission motivated sort of origin story for this one. I think when it comes, I think before we get to that, we have to talk about kind of what we've done at Pacific Neuroscience Institute and what we want to do everywhere else. So at Pacific Neuroscience Institute 7 years ago, when I met the director, who's a geriatric psychiatrist and MD PhD, Dr. David Merrill, he said he wanted to make a brain gym. And I didn't know what that was at the time. And I said, all right, well, we're going to get various exergaming technologies and dual task training approaches and put them in a single place. And I had like a little room. They gave me like an old exam room that I called the closet. And it was like, I had like a cyber cycle, which is an exergaming bike. I had the smart fit board, which has numbers, letters, and you hit the board to match and track things and go through the alphabet, stuff like that. Very fun device that will also, but I think both of those will be at the meeting in San Diego. And so I was putting these different things together, and it wasn't until a couple of years later where we got larger space and started to actually expand and put more technology in there and incorporate virtual reality and other stuff that it really became a brain gym. And it wasn't until last year where we actually published a methods paper on the science behind dual task training and exergaming, how we would start to put this together. Because previously it was like one study on one device, another study on one device. It's like doing a study on a leg press, doing a study on a treadmill, and publishing them separately, but trying to say that your program in a gym where it's multimodal in nature, where people go on the treadmill and then they go lift weights and they go use machines, is evidence-based. And people do that research, but they don't do that with exergaming. They just do single device studies. So we wanted to create a multimodal program that incorporated dual task training with exergaming. It's called clinical exergaming. So it's not quite Dance Dance Revolution, the Nintendo Wii, although those are very fun. But clinical exergames, which means they're designed for a specific purpose. So instead of just playing a tennis game on Wii Sports, we're doing a balance game with a memory task, because that is the specific therapeutic outcome we're trying to achieve, maybe with a certain individual. So I thought that was great. And a lot of places are starting to emulate this now. We now do consulting with senior living communities, medical fitness facilities, YMCAs, physical therapy clinics, and they're starting to emulate this model. We're guiding them on assessment, programming, equipment and technology selection, and staff training. And so the goal was then, okay, well, some people may be able to get this equipment, some people may not. You don't have to have equipment to run a brain health program. I have colleagues that run entire classes with no technology at all. Maybe they're using an iPad and TV screen, so that's some technology, but they're just using verbal callouts for traditional dual task training, which is awesome. And I think there's so many ways to incorporate that. So whether it's dual task training, exergaming, health coaching with a brain health emphasis, all of these things are on the horizon. These are all technologies and skill sets and opportunities that are within our grasp in the short term that we can deliver to our existing audiences within our practice. And I think the idea of medical fitness is so cool still. Like we're in a little bubble, but when I still tell people about it, I'm like, have you heard of medical fitness? It's like I have a Bible. I'm like, have you heard about medical fitness today, sir? And they're like, no, like, what is it? And so I think medical fitness is amazing. So it's really writing off the MFA's coattails like, okay, well, if medical fitness is a thing and people are getting medical fitness facility certifications, what about brain health facility or brain health program certifications? Because a place should be able to say, we care about brain health, and not just say it, but do something about it and go through, I think it's not a rigid accreditation process, but go through a process to show other people that they care about it and that they're doing something about it. So it's not really a money motivated thing. It's a mission motivated thing, because I think it fits our mission of helping medical fitness facilities really say and prove that they're going to focus on brain health, and then make a commitment And I think if you do that, you can't just then go back and do nothing about it, right? You're more likely to help people make an impact on their brain health if you have it as a label, as part of your business, that you are going to do that. I think that's really where this is coming from. It's a mission motivated way to differentiate a program or a facility from someone else not caring about that. Maybe a 24-hour fitness isn't going to care about that. And yes, if an older adult goes to any gym and exercises, that's awesome. That's awesome. A certified facility doesn't even need to touch an individual in order for them to benefit from exercise for their brain health. But I think every community should have a place where they can go to at least get a consultation, recommendation, referrals, and if they stay there, a program, services that they can get in order to take them to their goals, which is maintaining cognitive independence, preventing dementia, and slowing cognitive decline. So that's
I'm
really
so
where
glad
it comes from.
I'm so glad you used the word differentiation, because I think that's a big cool part of this. Where yes, MFA has our facility certification. There's a lot of good standards and guidelines that we have for facilities who want to employ the medical fitness model. But it doesn't necessarily go into the depth that this program accreditation has,
Right.
specific to brain health. And just I would say MFA is now looking at, okay, how can we support facilities who are looking to get into some of these conditions, brain health being one of the real big opportunities that we can first put out. And I think there's probably opportunities for other types of conditions that we can do similar things for, but this is where we're starting and saying, okay, we're going to have these areas of focus, these guidelines that now we're going to evaluate you on, but we're going to help you put these things into place and develop these. And the other point that I thought you made that was really good is that you don't have to have all of this equipment. I mean, a lot of it is really helpful. It's what I saw in your
Sure.
facility, and
It's like having a leg press versus doing squats. It's okay to do both, right?
yeah, do both. And I one of our partners was telling me a couple of months ago that they're developing a design. I think they worked with you, and where you can just carve out a section within their fitness center devoted to this,
That's
and
right.
then you
Yeah.
program around it. And it's for the facility, it is a another revenue generation source, and but it's a way to serve that population even more directly, and individualize the program with more than just your general exercise, which, as you stated, is helpful. But maybe this is taking it to the next level, and you can partner then with the medical community
Absolutely.
looking for
Yeah.
solutions. So I think that's what I'm really excited about.
It's acknowledging the effort. It's acknowledging the effort. Like you can buy a piece of equipment that maybe has cognitive demands, but I don't think that's enough. But the people that get that, put in the training, uh, again, they don't need to get equipment. It's really about putting in the effort towards saying, we care about brain health. We're going to make an effort to show we care about brain health. We're going to train our staff, allocate resources and time to show that. And I think it's really just the certification program is really a way to acknowledge that effort. Say you get a stamp of approval for your effort, and you have to meet these guidelines, and we're going to provide you extra resources and guidance to do it even better. I think that's really the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something that our facilities, it goes right into what we can do, and differentiate again, have something that is specific for this. So I'm really excited, like I said, and so maybe now talking about this, what from your experience, what kind of changes have you seen in people, in communities, even where some of these brain health programs and strategies are integrated into a facility?
Sure. So I would say this is still in its nascent phases where there's a lot we don't know. So I just released this paper maybe in December of last year, and that's a methods paper. We're not reporting on data, but we're now just drafting a paper. We consult with Asbury Methodist Village, which is a luxury senior living community in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and they have a lot of other sites throughout Maryland and Pennsylvania. And we have set up a brain health program. They call it their Connections program with Dr. Sue Paul and Don Kirk. They're amazing. and basically have worked with them to select equipment, create programming, and now they have it across, I think, 4 to 6 different sites where they have a full-time position of a brain health coach. They have the equipment, they have assessment methodologies and policies. They have an 8-week program that they repeat twice every year. They have a membership that existing residents already pay, and they do everything in a small group format with exergaming and dual task training. On top of that, they have health education classes, services, cognitive stimulation and training programs. Health coaching groups are now emerging there. And so it's a very like brain health focused example of what a place like a senior living community could do. And that this is now like a full-time job for a bunch of people, is running a brain health program, which is amazing to me. And so we are now analyzing a data set of about 100 people who have gone through their program, who did cognitive tests, physical tests, and questionnaires about their everyday cognition and memory before and after. And we're finding some significant improvements in that area that we are going to report on very soon and publish later this year. We're seeing things like improvements in global cognitive ability, improvements in speed, improvements in executive functioning, which is your frontal lobe's ability, which is exactly what dual task training and exergaming work on. And also, I think even more importantly, an improvement in how people perceive their memory and attention and cognition has gotten better. And that leads to less frustration or challenges with things like memorizing names or tasks throughout the day. I think that's very important. So we're writing that paper and drafting that. And the reason I'm not disclosing more is because we're still doing some analyses and I don't want to put the cart before the horse. And so that's one paper we're putting out. That will actually be the first community-based study, which is not a randomized controlled trial. It's more of a program evaluation study that looks at a multimodal program combining exergaming and dual tasking like this. Otherwise, it doesn't really exist. So we're putting that out there later this year. And then in terms of brain health coaching, I've published one study last year. It was maybe only 6 people. It was more of a pilot exploratory study showing that a brain health coaching pilot program that was myself and a doctor and a nurse practitioner, where we met with about 6 people over Zoom once a week for about 6 months, where we would look at their blood biomarkers, look at lifestyle behaviors, and they would, when we did not meet, watch these educational modules on brain health related topics from sleep to exercise to nutrition. And at the end of the 6 months, we found significant improvements in cognition, specifically visuospatial functioning, which is associated with like, where's my keys? Where's my car? Visual memory and other things. So it improved certain aspects of cognition significantly. There were other aspects of cognition that also improved, but they were not significant. But global cognition, which is overall cognition, improved significantly, which is awesome. And that seems to be consistent with other studies coming out on this brain health coaching. There's one called the Brain Health Champion Study, where they're training medical assistants to be brain health coaches by following up over the phone. Nurse practitioners are doing like these health coaching like visits. And even though the National Board of Health and Wellness coaches relative to research is relatively new, there's more studies being done with board certified health coaches now doing these brain health interventions. So whether it's a dual task training or exergaming study or healthy lifestyle interventions through health education, app enabled or phone telehealth or phone enabled health coaching for brain health through a variety of professionals and contexts, there seems to be a lot of good trending evidence that these things actually help. The Alzheimer's Association International Congress was just a couple months ago, and they just published something called the US Pointer Trial, where they were trying to get people to exercise, eat a Mediterranean style diet called the MIND diet, which is Mediterranean plus the DASH diet for hypertension, and do computerized brain games like Brain HQ or Lumosity for about 6 months. And they had an arm that got the recommendations and an arm that had a health coach helping them meet those recommendations. And both of them did better cognitively. These are people with a diagnosed cognitive impairment, but the people with a coach did even better. So that's something. So we're getting a lot of new data coming out all the time. It is kind of a cutting edge novel area, but it's not like a new drug. Like we know that health coaching and exercise and cognitively stimulating interventions can help. But now we're just getting more evidence on the specificity for who do they, Dean Ornish came out with a study earlier last year about how they took individuals with mild cognitive impairment and early dementia and showed improvement in cognition because of a multimodal lifestyle coaching based intervention consisting of exercise, nutrition, meal delivery, cognitive stimulation, memory training, sleep coaching. All of that stuff showed improvement. And then in our clinic and in our practice, we do have people that maybe are 50-year-old CEOs that have a family history of dementia that just have always been challenged with names and faces. They can improve. We've had people go from mild cognitive impairment, which is a middle stage between dementia and normal, back to normal. We've had people who have dementia who improve cognition and still have dementia, but their quality of life is better. So, and then we've had people that don't improve cognitively, but maybe their understanding of things or their quality of life or their mood has improved or their physical function has improved. So I'm not saying that we can fix everything, but whoever we're dealing with, regardless of disease state or diagnosis or situation, I think we can improve some aspect of their brain or mental health and therefore quality of life in some sort of way with some intervention.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love hearing about all this. I mean, you're part of a lot of really groundbreaking research, a lot of things that are going on in the industry right now. And I'm excited to see our certification, how that can help other facilities, put something really robust into place. I think you have outlined really well the opportunities, the need, and that there are now resources that can be used to put some of these things in place, which
Right.
should be just really exciting. And the conference is kind of what we're targeting to fully launch this and tell people all the things that we have available, and the way that you can help people. I mean, your keynote will be great. We'll have a really good expert panel on brain health that you're leading. So I
Yeah,
think,
very excited about that.
yeah, if people want to learn more, I mean, certainly this conference is going to be one way that they can really learn about a lot of this, and throughout the year, we'll have all kinds of things. I'm sure we'll have you back in multiple ways to help spread this message. So finally here today on this podcast, what would you like our audience to have as one key takeaway about brain health and the role of medical fitness? What would that be?
Yeah, I think the first thing is creating the conversation around brain health, either indirectly or directly with the people you serve, which is just as an empathy exercise. I think we know there's a problem, we know there's solutions. But as an empathy exercise, if you think about every client, every member, every patient you worked with previously, today, and in the future, do they have other goals that they don't have words for, that they don't bring up to you because they don't know they're supposed to or could, that are bigger than the reason they came to you? For example, a doctor may refer someone for cardiovascular rehab, or someone might refer for back pain or weight loss. All that's important and relevant to brain health. At the same time, is there a bigger concern, a bigger fear, a bigger opportunity that may be there that is the motivating factor to not just serve them for that short-term goal, but keep them there for the rest of their life, or at least serve them for the rest of their life, even if they're not physically there with you? And I think that is an educational opportunity. So if an older adult sits down with me and we're working on balance and cardio and gaining muscle, all of that is important. All of that will help with brain health. But I think somewhat importantly, are we having a conversation with them about the brain health benefits of what they're doing? And I've had tons of people that I've coached that have not done for their entire life the things they need to be doing for brain health. But as soon as I connect the dots that it can help with their brain health, they do it. And from a health coaching standpoint, that's the best thing. I mean, it is unfortunately fear motivation, but it's real, right? It's real. And it helps people shift their behavior and kind of act with urgency that, oh, I need to take care of this. I need to get a sleep study and treat my untreated sleep apnea. I need to take care of my cardiovascular health. I need to engage in more cognitively stimulating activities. I need to be more social. And basically coach people partner with people into getting them to live a more richer, fuller, healthier life. That's what it's about. But that doesn't really happen if we don't break out of this, oh, you're here for balance. Okay, we're going to do a 12-week program and then discharge you. That's important. But really, it's about, what do we think that person cares about? How is brain health relevant for this person? And how can we start to create a better conversation around it? And again, even if that's a flyer about the brain health benefits of exercise, that's better than doing nothing. But the biggest injustice is doing nothing. That's the biggest injustice here. When good, smart people do nothing, that's the biggest issue. So as long as we're doing less or something more than nothing, we're good. I think that's the takeaway.
Fantastic. Well, Ryan, this episode has been awesome. I really appreciate you sharing your expertise and giving us a glimpse into the huge potential for brain health and medical fitness. So for anyone who wants to connect with you, is there a good way for them to get in touch? Maybe website, email, social media?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to find me, Ryan Glatt on LinkedIn. And I would say that Instagram is also fine, glatt.brainhealth. Those are two good places to contact me. And I'd love to hear from people and excited to meet people at the conference.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much. And thanks to our listeners so much for tuning in today. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Medical Fitness Podcast. We'll see you next time, everybody, on the Medical Fitness Podcast. Have a healthy day.
Thank you.
This episode of the Medical Fitness Podcast is brought to you by the Medicine, Rehab, and Fitness Institute. The MRFI has been co-founded by medical, rehab, and fitness practitioners who see the medical necessity in getting people to be more active and fit. There is a sleeping giant of opportunity to building a more active population, an opportunity which lies in a more effective medical referral pathway to exercise programs and professionals equipped to serve that pathway. To learn more about our services and how we're working to make this a reality, visit mrfinstitute.org. That's mrfinstitute.org.